The morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains, casting a gentle, golden glow across the room. I felt a warm touch brush my forehead, a tender, lingering warmth that made me smile even before my eyes opened. It was his kiss, gentle and loving, as if he was trying to pour all his affection into that one touch. He had kissed me like this every morning since we first said, "I do," a small but meaningful ritual that reminded me how loved I was. Slowly, I opened my eyes, and there he was, my husband, my best friend, my everything. Standing beside the bed with a tray in his hands, his gaze filled with a light that made my heart skip. His eyes sparkled with that familiar, playful twinkle, the one that had captured my heart so long ago. Somehow, it seemed brighter now, more alive, as if the years we'd shared had only deepened the love shining through. On the tray, he placed a perfect little breakfast, freshly brewed coffee, toast, eggs just the way I liked them, and a tiny vase with a single flower he'd likely picked from our garden. It was simple, yet thoughtful, a reminder of all the small ways he had always shown me love. Today was our 10th anniversary, marking a decade since we promised each other forever. 10 years of laughter, tears, dreams, and growth. And here he was, still looking at me with that same devotion, still surprising me in the ways that mattered most, making me feel like the luckiest woman in the world. I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by gratitude as I looked at him, realizing that this love had become even more beautiful with time. The kids had gone to stay with his sister for the week, giving us a rare, precious time just for ourselves. It felt like such a gift, a chance to step away from the everyday business of parenting and return to just being us. The house was quiet in a way that it hadn't been in what felt like years. Without the usual sound of little voices and footsteps running down the hallway, there was a calmness that wrapped around us like a warm blanket. It felt like a second honeymoon, just him and me, laughing together, filling the rooms with a lightness that had been missing in the hustle of daily life. As I sat up in bed and took the first bite of the warm breakfast he had prepared, the flavors brought me a sense of comfort and love. I could taste the care he had put into every bite, the simple joy he took in making me happy. Each bite brought with it a memory, a glimpse of the years we'd spent side by side. I remembered the early days when everything was new and thrilling, when every smile, every touch felt like a promise of forever. I thought of the dreams we dared to share, the plans whispered late at night, and the promises we had made and kept, even when life tested us. I looked over at him, my husband, this wonderful man who had given me everything my heart didn't even know it needed. He was watching me with that familiar gentle smile, his eyes full of warmth and love. Seeing him there, sitting beside me with that patient, steady presence, I felt a wave of gratitude. This was the man who had stood by me through it all, through laughter and tears, through joys and struggles. He had filled my life with love in ways I hadn't even imagined, and in this quiet moment, it felt as if all those years, all those moments, were woven into the present, binding us together with a love that was both simple and profound. Our children were the most precious gifts of our love, a beautiful mix of the two of us, with his steady calm and my curious spark. Looking at them was like seeing our bond made real, a reminder of everything we had built together. Their laughter, their playful energy, and even their endless questions filled our home with so much happiness, making each day brighter and fuller. But today, with just the two of us, the house felt peaceful in a different way, a quiet that let me feel him beside me more clearly, without the usual distractions of our busy life. I glanced over at him, and our eyes met, lingering in a moment that felt almost magical. His smile was soft and warm, that familiar, gentle smile that had always made me feel cherished. It was a look that held years of memories, silent promises, and deep understanding. My heart fluttered, knowing he had something special planned, and yet he kept me guessing, keeping that little hint of mystery that had always been a part of him. He was the man who had loved me in so many ways, through so many phases, the man who knew me, perhaps, even better than I knew myself. The anticipation built up inside me as I waited, eager to see what this day would bring, feeling every bit as smitten as I had in the early days of our love. After breakfast, we let the rest of the morning drift by slowly, lounging around the house as if the outside world didn't exist. Sunlight filtered through the windows, casting a warm glow on everything, and we wandered from room to room in our light, comfortable clothes, feeling completely relaxed and carefree. It was like we'd stepped back in time, back to those early days when it was just the two of us. We teased each other endlessly, laughing over little jokes, brushing past each other with a playful touch. Every time he smiled at me, I felt a rush, like a teenage girl with a crush, my heart fluttering with a fresh thrill that somehow felt both exciting and familiar. I found myself watching him, noticing the little things that had drawn me to him all those years ago. The way he laughed, the easy confidence in his movements, the warmth in his gaze that made me feel like I was the only person in the world. I wanted him, felt a longing for him that was almost overwhelming, as if all those years had only deepened the connection between us. There was a spark, a magnetic pull that made my pulse quicken every time he looked at me. But just when I thought we might get closer, that he might lean in or pull me into his arms, he would laugh softly, stepping back with a mischievous sparkle in his eye, leaving me hanging, my anticipation growing each time. It was a delicious kind of suspense, a playful game between us, and I could feel my desire for him building with every passing moment. The day slipped by in a beautiful haze, a blissful blur of laughter that echoed through our home, and gentle touches that left my skin tingling. Every shared glance, every playful nudge felt like a return to those early days when everything was new and exciting. When evening finally rolled around, he looked at me with that familiar, mischievous smile and asked me to get dressed up. "I've got something special planned," he said, his voice filled with anticipation. My heart fluttered as I eagerly went to our bedroom, already imagining what he might have in store. I chose one of my favorite evening dresses, a deep shade of navy that clung to my curves, flattering in all the right places. The soft, silky fabric felt cool against my skin, and as I looked in the mirror, I dabbed on just a hint of my favorite perfume, a warm, floral scent he'd always loved. A thrill ran through me as I adjusted my necklace and smoothed my dress, feeling both nervous and excited, like it was our first date all over again. As I descended the staircase, I noticed his gaze was fixed on me, his eyes tracing every step I took. There was something in his expression, a mix of admiration and pride, that made my cheeks warm and my heart skip a beat. He looked incredible himself, casual yet effortlessly stylish, wearing a crisp shirt that brought out his broad shoulders and deep, thoughtful eyes. It was as though he'd stepped out of my dreams, impossibly handsome and confident, yet with that same gentle warmth I'd always loved. In that moment, just seeing him standing there made my pulse quicken, and I felt a spark ignite inside me, reminding me of every reason I fell in love with him all those years ago. The restaurant he took me to was enchanting, a hidden gem that neither of us had ever visited before. From the moment we walked in, I could sense the intimacy of the place, with low lights and soft music playing in the background. Small candles flickered on each table, casting a gentle glow that created an air of romance and mystery. As we sat down, he reached across the table to take my hand, his fingers warm and steady around mine. The world seemed to fade away, and for that one moment, it felt like we were the only two people in the entire world, wrapped in our own little bubble of love and contentment. Halfway through our meal, just as I thought the night couldn't get any more perfect, he reached into his pocket with a smile. My breath caught as he pulled out a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a beautiful necklace. The delicate, shimmering chain held a sparkling pendant that caught the candlelight in a way that made it look like a star. I could hardly believe it, my heart swelling with happiness as he moved closer to fasten it around my neck. His fingers brushed my skin, lingering for just a second, and I felt a wave of warmth rush through me, filling me with a joy that felt almost unreal. I touched the necklace gently, feeling its cool weight against my skin, and looked at him, my heart overflowing. How could this day possibly get any better? When we finally stepped into our home, I assumed the night's magic was winding down, ready to slip into quiet memories. But then, I noticed a shift in him, a subtle but undeniable change. Throughout the day, I had been the one leaning in close, eager for every brush of his hand, every glance he cast my way. But now, as he turned to me, there was something different in his eyes, something deep and powerful that made my heart flutter. It was as if he had been holding back, waiting for this moment, and now that we were alone, he could let it all out. He took my hand, his fingers warm, strong, and reassuring, and guided me toward the bedroom with a gentle but deliberate pull. His touch was steady, grounding, yet the energy radiating from him felt electrifying. I felt as though I was being led into a moment we had unknowingly prepared for over all these years. We reached the edge of the bed, and he made me sit down on the bed, looking at me with an intensity that sent a rush of warmth through me. His gaze held a perfect blend of tenderness and desire, a look that seemed to say he saw every part of me, my strengths, my insecurities, my love, and wanted them all. He stood at the edge of the bed, his presence steady and calm, a quiet strength radiating from him that made my heart beat just a little faster. His eyes held mine for a moment, deep and intense, and in that instant, I felt as if he was seeing all of me, my heart, my soul, everything that made me his. Then, in a low, gentle voice that was barely more than a whisper, he asked me to lie back. The words were simple, yet spoken with a tenderness that made the moment feel precious, as if he was handling something delicate and priceless. "Spread your legs," he murmured, his voice soft but steady, each word carrying a quiet, respectful purpose. I noticed a slight hesitance in his tone, almost as though he was waiting for my response, my silent agreement. It was a small pause, yet it spoke volumes. It reminded me how he'd always been this way with me, gentle, respectful, never pushing, always allowing me to feel safe, secure, and valued. The way he waited made me feel cherished, like I was someone truly special to him. It wasn't just a request. It was a gesture of trust, a moment where he offered me the choice, giving me a sense of control that only deepened my connection to him. I took a slow breath, feeling the warmth of his gaze on me, and let myself relax, opening up to him. I parted my legs gradually, feeling a slight tremble of excitement mixed with anticipation. As I did, I noticed the way he knelt between them, his movements careful and intentional, as though he was stepping into a sacred space. His gaze never left me, and in his eyes, I saw something that made my heart flutter, a deep, unwavering love that seemed to anchor me in that moment, a love that held me completely. His eyes, warm and steady, reflected an intensity one hadn't seen in a long time, as though he was taking in every detail, every part of me with a reverence that left me feeling exposed yet deeply cherished. My pulse quickened, each beat echoing the silent, powerful connection between us. I felt a shiver run down my spine, a reaction not just to his words, but to the silent promise held in his gaze, a promise that I was his, just as he was mine, and in that moment, nothing else mattered. "I want to show you something," he whispered, his fingers tracing a delicate path along my skin, igniting a trail of warmth and excitement. I closed my eyes, surrendering to his touch, feeling each sensation as if it were brand new. His breath brushed against my skin, sending shivers up my spine, and I felt myself melt under his touch, a wave of emotion rising within me. Then, with a tenderness that was both surprising and beautifully intimate, he kissed me, a soft, gentle kiss that spoke volumes. It was as though he was saying, without words, how much he loved me, how much he cherished every moment with me. In that moment, it felt like we were in our own world, a place where only the two of us existed, away from everything else, bound by a love that had only grown stronger with time. With each touch, he brought me closer to an edge I hadn't known existed. My heart raced, my breath quickened, and finally, as a wave of warmth washed over me, I felt my entire body tremble. I opened my eyes to see him smiling, his eyes filled with love and satisfaction. Exhausted yet content, I lay there, my heart full of gratitude and happiness. This anniversary had been more than I ever imagined, and as I looked into his eyes, I silently thanked the universe for bringing this man into my life. As the night faded, I lay in his arms, feeling his steady heartbeat beneath my cheek. I thought of our journey together, the laughter, the struggles, the quiet moments that had stitched our lives together. I realized that this love, this connection, was something rare, something to be cherished. He had given me the world, and tonight, he had given me a memory I would carry with me forever. I lifted my head to meet his gaze, a soft smile playing on my lips. "You've surprised me in ways I never expected," I whispered, my voice filled with love and gratitude. He smiled, pulling me closer, his hand gently stroking my hair. "I'll always find new ways to show you how much you mean to me," he murmured, his words a promise that warmed my heart. As sleep began to overtake me, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in a long time. This anniversary was more than just a celebration of years together. It was a reminder of the love we'd built, a love that had weathered every storm and shone brighter with each passing year. I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together, hand in hand, heart to heart. And as I drifted off to sleep, I silently thanked him, my husband, my best friend, for a life filled with love, laughter, and unforgettable moments.